My boyfriend proposed to me at my dad's funeral. I was up on stage literally in the middle of talking about my last moments with my dad when my boyfriend stood up and got down on one knee. Life is short and grief makes us remember what's important. Will you marry me? He interrupted. The entire room went completely still. People turned their heads slowly and stared at him, but despite that, he was still just kneeling there smiling at me holding up the ring. He didn't seem bothered by the silence or the awkwardness. He looked proud of himself like he'd made some big romantic gesture. It honestly looked like some impractical Joker's skit. I stood frozen up there gripping my tissues tighter and felt tears run harder down my face. Of course, I didn't answer him. I just put my nose down and stepped off the podium. I moved through the crowd without looking at anyone and went straight for the exit door. As soon as I was outside, I stopped and leaned against the wall. I started sobbing. And a few seconds later, my boyfriend followed me out, still holding the ring box open. He came up smiling, waiting for me to say something. When I didn't say a word back, he grabbed my hand gently and placed the ring on my finger. I looked down at it, then back up at him. I didn't have the strength to say anything. I went to shake my head to tell him no, but he grabbed my face. Baby, please don't embarrass me by saying no. Think about it. Proposing during a funeral. That's thrilling, romantic. Plus your dad was eccentric. He would have loved this. I had no strength to say no left. I just nodded, giving him the least assured yes of my life. He hugged me tightly, kissed me on the forehead, and then immediately led me back inside. In the weeks after things got very weird with my friends, when we invited everyone over for an engagement party, my best friend spent the whole night avoiding eye contact with my boyfriend. She stayed close to me, whispering privately to our other friends whenever he left the room. Eventually, she pulled me aside and gave me a worried look. I knew she thought I was crazy, but I forced a smile, hugged her, and didn't say anything. My family wasn't much better. We had dinner one night at my mom's place and no one really talked. My brother kept shaking his head every time my boyfriend said something. My mom reached over and squeezed my hand, staring at me with concern. I almost started crying right there at the table, but my boyfriend wrapped his arm around me and pulled me away from the table, telling me they just didn't recognize what real romance was. I agreed, knowing deep down I didn't want this. The closer the wedding got, the more trapped I felt. One night alone in my room, I sat at my desk trying to write my vows. Nothing felt real or true. I crumpled up pages and tossed them on the floor, frustrated and tired. Finally, I looked over at a picture of my dad. He was smiling in the photo. Seeing him made something snap inside me. I knew I had to do something. I quickly folded the paper and went to bed, knowing what would happen at the wedding. On our wedding day, Luke stood up front smiling like he'd won a contest. I walked down the aisle slowly, barely looking at him. Guests watched quietly, whispering behind their hands. My boyfriend gave his vows first loud and confident. He talked about how our love was strong enough to turn the worst day of my life into the best when he proposed. That was the moment I knew I had made the right choice. When it was my turn, I unfolded the paper in my hands slowly. I took a breath, and then I finally looked straight at him. I started telling him the truth of what I thought about the proposal at my dad's funeral. I told him how selfish it was and how embarrassed and hurt I felt. I told him how everyone knew it was wrong and how they tried quietly to tell me. His face began turning red and then pale. He opened his mouth to say something, but nothing came out, and I wasn't done. I told him in front of everyone that he coerced me into saying yes outside that church that day. I told him that looking at him made me sick and that I'll be praying for the next woman he meets. I heard my friends start to giggle when I said that. I took off the ring and placed it into his hand. He stared down at it speechless. Without another word, I turned and walked back down the aisle. I left him standing there at the altar, the ring in his hand, completely humiliated and alone.